Well, shalom, shalom. I am Rebekah Yehovah from Teshuvah Ministries, and welcome to my 8th video in my series called Should Christians Keep the Biblical Feasts? Now, originally this started as how I was going to address the issues asked in an email that was sent to me by a Christian man regarding my biblical feast course coming up. And it's kind of expanded from there a little bit, and I have just a couple more videos for you. These are not specifically directed towards something that Harry asked, the man that I nicknamed Harry, who sent me the email. He didn't actually directly ask this question that we're going to talk about today, or the one in the next video, but I feel like these are issues and subjects and that are kind of the source of irritation between the Christians and Hebrew people, or Hebrew roots, or Messianic, or Melchizedek, or anybody who is trying to turn to obey Yahovah and turn back to the Torah. There's this irritation spot, and it's called grace. One camp thinks grace means this, and the other camp thinks it means this. And so I can't believe I'm going to do this today or wade into this water, but I feel like now is the appropriate time, because I really feel like Harry's questions all really in the email, and if you don't know what those are, you need to go back and watch all the other videos in this series. But basically, I just feel like this is kind of an overarching question probably in his heart, and he's, wondering probably, what do I do with grace? So when I turn back to obeying the law, what is grace about, and what does that really mean? Well, I'm hoping he asked that question actually. Maybe he's not. Perhaps he doesn't care and he just wants the definition that he grew up with or he knows about grace. But I'm going to challenge probably his definition of grace today, as well as perhaps yours. If you already know, then fantastic. Just come along with me, and we're just going to do a little study together on what grace means, true biblical grace. Okay, that's what this video is going to be about. Now, I would love it if you would like this video and not dislike it, but you won't even know until you get to the end, so you have to watch the whole thing. Okay, all the way to the end, and then you can like it. And then if you like it, then subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Teshuvah Ministries, and we'll see what we have in store for you for more videos coming down the road. Yes, this is one that I could potentially get a lot of comments on, and so keep your comments nice, or I will have to disable comments on this video. You hear me? Okay. And right now, I don't know when you're watching this, whether it's prior the release of the Biblical Feast course at Kingdom University, or perhaps after, but nevertheless, click on the link below in the description down there somewhere, and there should be a link there to go check out my Biblical Feast course, so you can learn about the Biblical Feast, because that's really the foundation by which I'm building all these videos in this series on, is trying to get your mouth watered, get you excited for taking my Biblical Feast course so that you can obey Yahovah. All right, so what is true biblical grace? That is what we're going to talk about today. Are you ready? I think I am. I think so. We're going to talk about the source of irritation between our Christian friends and anyone who is turning to obey Yahovah. All right, here we go. What is true biblical grace? Yahovah Elohim, thank you for this platform. Thank you that I'm able to speak and have even one person listen is pretty amazing. And I just ask for your Ruach HaKodesh to be here with us today as we look into this word grace and what it truly, truly means. I think it's beautiful, but I hope the viewer also thinks it's beautiful enough to actually teshuvah, so if they need to. So thank you for your Ruach HaKodesh, who will make it clear to our hearts what this word is about and what it means for us personally. Thank you for Yahshua HaMashiach, whose work allowed us to get the Ruach HaKodesh. Amen. So I don't know if you know, but yesterday our little dog died, and it's been a little bit of a hard week for us, but I can't imagine what else to do with my day today than to teach more about what Yehovah has laid on my heart and about the truth that will get us to be able to see our loved ones, our loved animals. You know, I mean, I love, when you say loved ones, I mean, I just go off on this for a moment, you know, when you say, yeah, I want to get to heaven so I can see my loved ones. Well, there's a condition to that. Did you know this, people? There's a condition to that. First of all, you have to get there for yourself. And second of all, they have to get there. And everyone has free will. So that free will affect whether that loved one of yours is there or not. Which is why I'm doing these videos, because I really want my loved ones and my friends and family to understand what the path to salvation actually is and is not. I really do. I want them to be able to have what I know that their heart wants. I've seen it in their eyes their whole life of what they want, and to, you know, how they see Yehovah in nature and creation, and how they, you know, love him, but they don't know how to love him. They love him intellectually, but they don't know how to love him. They're confused about that. Maybe they don't think they're confused, but they are confused because they're not doing what the scripture says to do. So, you know, and you can tell by the fruit. So I just humbly present these videos in hopes that my loved ones and friends and family would hear the truth, and that the truth would set them free from bondage that they don't even know they're in. And if you are a stranger to me and perhaps we'll become friends someday through these videos, amazing. I'm so blessed and honored to be able to be a part of that journey of yours onto the right path, the narrow path that leads to the happily ever after. Okay, so I don't want to cry today, otherwise I'll ruin my makeup. So let's get going. All right, so I'm going to start video number 8, which is what is true biblical grace. I'm going to start this video by talking about the Christian narrative. So I feel like the Christian narrative is pretty in your face when it comes to a few things. And one of those is grace. Okay, and I feel like I need to talk about this first because it has everything to do with whether you see the need to obey or not. Okay, so let's just rock and roll with this and we'll see how it goes here. I could so have so many comments on this video, and if you're not nice, I will lock comments, just so you know, okay? If you are not nice, you will be blocked, and I may lock comments on this one because I don't want to put Allie through a ton of hundreds of comments that she has to wade through that are not good, okay? And don't use my YouTube channel for preaching yourself, people. Okay, I don't like that. Knock that off. Go get your own channel, go get your own audience. I do not mind if you share thoughts and how my videos affected you. That's awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so glad for those comments, and I want you to know that a lot of those comments meet me in a time of need. I'm serious, like in the middle of the night when I'm working, or in the early mornings, or sometime in the day when I'm like totally miserable and I just am exhausted from working for the King. And one of your comments will come up and Allie will have approved it, and it makes me melt with joy, and I just fall down on my face and cry happy tears and pray for you. So I do appreciate those great comments, especially when they tell me about your life a little bit and I get to understand how my videos and my work has affected you. But if you choose to just be bitter or mean or teach your own theology, or you have your own agenda in my comment feed, ain't gonna happen, okay? All right. Okay, here we go. The Christian narrative is actually super ironic. It's so ironic that it's not even funny. It's a narrative that they as a whole propagate as a way to rationalize keeping the pagan feasts, okay? Because honestly, most Christians know that the feasts and festivals that they celebrate are pagan, especially Christmas. I mean, you ask most Christian people, not everyone, but most Christian people will actually say, oh yeah, I know they're pagan. I know the Christmas pagan. I know that Easter is pagan. I know that Halloween is pagan. They may not know that Valentine's is, and New Year's is, and that sort of thing, but the foundational one, which I consider Christmas, the big one that's in every movie, lots of songs. It's in our face in July. It doesn't leave for like, half a year or more. It's for 9 months. It's just in our face, in my opinion. So, so they know that they're pagan. But do you know that how they actually rationalize them? It kind of blew me away the other day when we had some personal friends divulged to us that we didn't know that they knew that they were pagan, and it was like, hey, did you know that these are pagan? Oh yeah, I know they're pagan. We were like shocked, like, really, you know that they're pagan, but you're continuing to celebrate them. And in their mind, they basically said they celebrate them in order to witness to other people. And thanks to Kurt Cameron, was it Kurt Cameron? There we go. I remember a few years back, he, who's a huge voice of the Christian world and the Left Behind series and all that stuff, and proponent of the rapture and all this nonsense, he actually got up on stage and I heard him speak it, and basically saying how, but we as Christians, he was talking about his camp, he's like, we as Christians need to celebrate Halloween in order to witness to people. And I'm like, what, you're going to give scripture texts in your, in the candy pumpkins? Yuck. So to celebrate the pagan feasts in his name and say that you are going to use those to promote his kingdom, that's wickedness. That's unfathomable. That's having your head in the sand, and that's not knowing your scriptures at all, or knowing what Yahweh told us to do and not do at all. I actually have a family who told me somewhat recently that they know that Christmas is pagan, but that they relish the opportunity to witness to others at that time of year and tell them about Jesus. And that they were so glad that more and more people were starting to celebrate at that time of year the birth of Jesus. What? Oh, witness how? How are you witnessing? How do you witness at Christmas time? With a plastic baby Jesus in your front yard laying in a manger with wise men kneeling down before him and the big star overhead? All of that is a lie. How are you witnessing with a lie? He was born in a sukkah, laid in a bread bowl, and the wise men didn't show up until he was almost 1.5 years old, when he lived in a house. Hello, how are you going to witness? How do you use those celebrations to witness for the kingdom of Yahuwah? By hanging Jesus ornaments on a tree next to Nimrod's balls? Or by praying to God over the Christmas meal? What actual God are you actually praying that prayer to, is my question. Who's going to actually hear that prayer? Now that I have eyes to see and ears to hear, I am so ashamed and appalled that I ever participated in that whoredom. People, Yahweh never said to do things like the pagans so that you can witness for him. No, he said not to do things like the pagans so that you can be clean and set apart for him. Did you catch that? He never said to do things like the pagans in order to reach the pagans. He said to not do things like the pagans so that you could be set apart for him, unlike the pagans. I think this is such a duh. To say anything else than what he said is to put words in his mouth. It is complete and utter rebellion and foolishness to go down this reasoning with why to keep celebrating the pagan festivals. And trust me, I don't want to be anywhere near you. If you are celebrating the pagan festivals knowing full well that they are pagan and choosing to try to witness for Yehovah through those, I don't want to be anywhere near you when the lightning strikes, anywhere near you when judgment strikes, because it will. It will. And you will be judged, especially if you know the truth. So if you're hearing me right now, bingo, you know the truth. So you got to deal with it. Okay? So the Christians have this narrative about the pagan festivals that they celebrate, saying that they've been washed in the blood, that it's okay to celebrate because they're using those celebrations to witness to people. That's one of their narratives there. They have another narrative that Isaac actually brought up the other day, and I think it speaks volumes to the first narrative. It allows the first narrative. This narrative basically goes like this. It's a narrative regarding sin. They basically say that, of course, sins keep you from being able to have a deep personal relationship with God. But sins really don't keep you out of heaven because grace covers all. So now do you see the link between the narratives that I wanted to go over here and my topic for grace? Yes, according to their belief, all you have to do is say the magic words of the sinner's prayer and you are in, you are golden. Life is on its way up. Really? You may think so, but you're blinded. When Isaac and I were talking about this the other day, he made a statement that was so profound. He said, it's almost like Christians believe that Jesus came to overthrow his Father's government and law. Whoa. Let's hear that one more time. It's almost like Christians believe that Jesus came to overthrow his Father's government and law. To say, that law was done away with, now grace covers all. Anything goes. Perhaps for many, that's what they want. They only want a Messiah who will do what they think feels right. Which, of course, that would be a false Messiah, would it not? That would lead them to the wrong side of Judgment Day. Yeah. But the true Messiah, Yahshua HaMashiach, came not only to destroy man's laws, but also to uphold his Father's government and law. If the Father was pleased to give him everything, then we can rest assured that Yahshua did not commit treason against his Father. But that, I think, is the thought that's underlying the Christian narrative on many different aspects. The fact that we don't need to keep a law, that there is no law anymore to keep, that he nailed that to the cross, or that grace covers all. These people that believe this stuff don't truly understand what the scripture says about grace, and they don't truly understand what law remains anymore. All right, and that's what this ministry is trying to help unpack for you. Okay, so I have just a little tangent to go on here, so bear with me, and forgive me if I have said this before, but basically we came into contact with a doctor a few weeks ago who confessed to me that she was an atheist. Yeah, she's a total atheist, had been a Christian, but decided at 20 when her best friend committed suicide that atheism was, I guess, better, believing no God, because she was so hurt, right? And she said to me, she literally says to me, she's like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with getting only this one life and having nothing else. And I was blown away. I couldn't believe that she didn't want more, didn't want to see things fixed or solved, that sort of thing. But she was super cool with just being an atheist, and that's all she was going to get was this one life, doing, good here according to what she thinks is good, and then she's just going to pass away, and so be it. She's not going to get anything, all right? But little does she know that she will be resurrected when the 1,000 years are over, and she will have to face the white throne judgment, and she will get rewarded for her works. Not her good works, according to what she thinks is good works, but her works according to what Yehovah thinks is good works. Okay, so she ain't done, she's not done with just this one life. So you might think, I just got this one life, I'm gonna do my best now. And, if it's nothing more than just having, a good life with some good morals and stuff that I learned in Christianity, then so be it. If there's nothing else past there, I'm sorry to tell you this, but, the scriptures is true, and there will be a judgment that you will be resurrected for, and you will have to pay the consequences of your sin, or you can get in line right now and stop sinning. Hey, there's an idea for you. So let's not forget that if you don't choose Yehovah, then evil has you. Evil claims you. That's we're born into sin, right? We have to actually choose Yehovah, right? Or we just default to evil. And evil just has us. Evil claims us, right? Having the belief that there is no God doesn't mean a hoot to the truth that there is a God. So you may think that there are actually no consequences to your choices, except the fact that you only get this one life to live. But in reality, you will be judged. You will stand before the King. You'll be judged by him, actually a fellow human being who is the perfect one, Yahshua, right? And you'll be punished by him for disobedience. You'll be sentenced by a king who upholds and knows very well Yehovah's law. You can't just claim that this life is all you want and then live this life as good as you possibly can. Yes, this life is actually going to be all that you get, but in fact you will face the all-consuming fire of Yehovah in the end, and that is not going to be a very fun day, I assure you. But the righteous, on a happy note, the righteous who keep Yah's law will get resurrected at the second coming on some future Yom Teruah, and then we will get our reward for our works. The crown that Yahshua talked about. Like Yahshua said, he said he's going to bring his reward with him to give every man according to what he has done. This is super good news, because on this side of that event, you can still repent, right? Yeah, you can still get in there and say, I want to do the good works. I want to be righteous. How do I be righteous? Teach me, Papa. Show me your ways. So that was a little bit of a tangent there, but I think that it underscores this idea of these false narratives being taught within man-made religion all over the place. So let's go ahead and talk about grace now, okay? The Christian religion has, unfortunately, a warped understanding of this beautiful word grace. They say that the Messiah's work gives converts a new kind of grace that covers all past, present, and future sin. But this is a delusion. This is blindness. This is not reality. This is not biblical. So, as you probably know, this is a fundamental belief of Christendom. And if you want to believe in this kind of sloppy, non-translated correctly grace and don't want to study to see what grace really means according to the scriptures, then you are content to get this one life Christian, not realizing that there are eternal consequences for you propagating this lie. Okay? But if you want the truth so that you can know what the scripture's true definition of grace is, then perhaps there is hope for you. So in case you are the latter, let me share with you what I know. So this is a little study. I hope you have a pen and paper handy. I've got some verses for you we're going to look at, all right? Thanks to other scholars who have taught me, let's look at the Hebrew understanding of grace. Okay, so being the Hebrew understanding of grace, which is the original, right? Greek isn't the original. Hebrew is the original. We want to know what Yahshua, when he was talking and preaching and whatever, we want to know what his context was, right? Okay, so he was a Hebrew. He spoke Hebrew. He read Hebrew. He read the Torah. Okay, he read it in Hebrew. Oh my! So we need to know the Hebrew understanding of grace to really know what Yehovah and Yahshua and the Ruach mean when they're talking about grace. Okay. So now I know that many scholars who know a whole lot more than I do have a problem with using Strong's Concordance, but I'm not a native Hebrew speaker. And so at least for me, this is a good place to start. Maybe it is for you too, in order to see that this word has been seriously misunderstood by millions of people for centuries, thanks to abstract Greek language, of which we thought the New Testament was written in, but it's not. Go figure. Originally, the Gospels were written in Hebrew. Hebrew Messiah, Hebrew Rabbi, Hebrew followers. They're in the land of the Hebrews. They read the Hebrew Torah. This would be a duh. So today we are going to look at Strong's, some Paleo Hebrew, as well as to let the scriptures define itself. So here we go with my simplified version of this study on grace. Okay. All right. So the Hebrew word for grace is chen. Strong's 2580. This word directly means things like adornment, charm, graceful, acceptance, elegance, the form of a woman, favor, pleasant, precious. This is super interesting, by the way. All right, but continuing. The origin of chen comes from the verb chana. All right, Strong's 2583, and it means to pitch a tent. The ancients used to pitch their tents in a circle, which served as a wall separating the inside of the camp from the outside of the camp. Boy, where have I heard this before? Learning to make distinctions is part of Papa's protocol to being his people, yes? To be a kingdom person means that you are capable of distinguishing one thing from another. Hello, like, okay, so inside the camp is distinction from outside the camp, right? So the noun derived from the verb chana is mechana. Mechana, I think it's mechana. And that is Strong's 4264. I think that says that. And it means camp or encampment. Very, very similar, right? A second root derived from the parent root chen is chanan. Chanan, yes. 2603, which is often translated in abstract terms as to have mercy. But let's look at where this word for grace, or this idea of to have mercy, is found in the scriptures, and let the scriptures define itself. So here we go. In Psalm 6:2, he says, "Have mercy upon me, O Yehovah, for I am weak. O Yehovah, heal me, for my bones are vexed." In Psalms 41:10, it says, "But thou, O Yehovah, be merciful unto me, and raise me up, that I may requite them." I don't know what the word requite means, but I'm sure it means something pretty cool, like overthrow them. I don't know. Psalms 57:1 says, "Be merciful unto me, O Yehovah, be merciful unto me." So he says it twice, like emphasizing for emphasis sake twice. "For my soul trusteth in thee. Yea, in the shadow of thy wings I will make my refuge until these calamities overpass." Ooh, that's cool. And then in Psalms 86:16, it says, "O turn unto me and have mercy upon me. Give thy strength unto thy servant, and save the son of thy handmaid." Psalms 30, I can see a theme here, can't you? Psalms 30:10 says, "Hear, O Yehovah, and have mercy upon me. Yehovah, be thou my ezer," my helper. We're going to look at that one again in a second. But as we can see in the text that we have just read, by allowing the scriptures to define itself, we see that this Hebrew verb chanan, is directly connected with the Hebraic concrete ideas of healing, help, being lifted up, finding refuge, strength, and salvation, like literally a rescue sort of salvation. So from a concrete Hebraic perspective, chanan means all of this. All of the above, which can be summed up by this phrase, providing protection. And where does one run to for protection? The camp, inside the camp, right? So if you were outside the camp and there was danger outside the camp, would you continue further outside the camp? You know, you dumb nut, you would go into the camp, right? You would want to be in where the fire is, where the men with the guns are, where the women are with the food. You know, you would want to be inside the protection of that camp, right? So do your own study, and you will see that this word for grace, so the chen, Strong's 2580, in Paleo Hebrew actually means the wall that continues. So I'm running out of time here, so I'm not going to go into the whole paleo here, but go do your study on it, and you will find out that that paleo word for that word grace that is used in the scriptures means a wall that continues. And if you look at it, a wall that continues would be in a circle, wouldn't it? Because if a wall was in a straight line, it would eventually stop, right? And you could go around it or something. But the wall that continues, it's like in a circle, and so inside that wall is the protection. So thus the Hebrew definition of grace is more like an enclosure, the wall that continues. It's more like an enclosure. You stay inside the enclosure and you'll be safe. Venture outside the enclosure and you will not be safe. Yah's law is this enclosure. Yah's law is grace. It is the enclosure that will protect us. It's the encampment that will protect us. King David talks about this all the time, doesn't he not? Just read Psalms 119. Okay, if you don't want to read it yourself, just watch me read it or listen to me read it to you. And I think I'll try to have a card up here for you to go click on and listen to me read it. But go read Psalms 119. It's insane. It's beautiful. It's all about how beautiful this enclosure is, this grace is of Yehovah's extended to humanity through this beautiful covenant law. So, I would like to submit to you where real provision is found as we face the mask-wearing mandates and all the other things that are being offered to us and are going to be offered to us by others who say that we must do these things in order to be safe, all under the disguise of this, concept of be safe. All right? The world offers us safety with measures that actually break Yah's law. So the world out here is saying, come over here and you will be safe. And yet you come over there, you have to break his law to go there. You have to break through the wall to go out here and to have the safety the world says that it's going to provide for you. when in fact the world can't give you any safety outside of his law. It's very clear in the scriptures that the law is the encampment. The law is the enclosure that's going to keep you safe. Outside, you will not be safe. You understand? So just a little snippet of something that I learned a few weeks ago about the Holocaust that I didn't know, and perhaps you know a lot more than I do, as I'm not an expert on the Holocaust by any means. But in this little snippet, what it was saying was that, we have to remember that the Jews did not just one day open their door and there's a train there and the people said, come get on the train, we're going to take you away. It didn't happen like that. It didn't happen that fast. This was them giving up giving up their freedoms slowly over the course of 10 to 13 years or so. This was them making concessions. So I guess one of the first concessions they made was that it became a law that they couldn't sit on a park bench in a park anymore. And they said, I guess that we can accommodate you on that. And then pretty soon it was just little by little by little things, right? And so when the trains didn't show up the first day and they herded everyone in. That's not how they did it. As far as I understand, they basically were told that they were going to be put on these trains to be taken to a safe place. Those are lies. Those trains were there not to take them to safety, but to death. And so when you look at this law, this beautiful grace that Yahovah has made, which is the enclosure, and somebody's telling you that there's safety outside of that, they're lying to you. They're a false prophet. They're a false Messiah. They're false everything. They are lying to you. Safety only happens within his law. You break his law, what can he do for you? He's already given you what he needs you to stay in order to stay safe. And if you choose to go away, yes, he'll go looking for you. Absolutely. Yes, that lost sheep, of course he'll go look for you. But you are a free will person. You're not a sheep. You're not an animal. He can't just grab you up and haul you back. This is free will, people. Love does not exist outside of free will. And love is the point, okay? In fact, that law is love because Yahovah is love, and Yahovah has always been and always will be, and Yahovah is love. God is love, right? And within that family, you have Yahovah, Yahshua, the Ruach. There's this give and take, give and take. Love, by definition, is other-centered. That's why there's always been, more than one in the Godhead, because there always had to be that give and take relationship, right? So this law of love that encircles us is what we have to stay in. So if we ever start to operate in a self-preserving manner, then that becomes selfishness. That's self-preservation is selfishness. That's looking at just me. That's not doing this other-centered love. And that actually breaks his law of love. And that is what requires the death penalty if we break his law, okay? So Yahovah has created a way by which we can stay in this law, stay in grace, and not die. All right? So just for right now, I just want you to wrap your brain around this idea that grace is this encampment. There's an inside and there's an outside. And right now the world is screaming at us to come over here for safety, just like they got the Jews on the trains. There was a picture I saw, and it was just moms and kids and babies and stuff, and they were just hanging out there by the train. They were getting on slowly. There was no one with guns pointed to their head. They were just getting on the train because they were told that they were going to be taken to safety, but they weren't being taken to safety. They were taken to their death. So I want to submit to you today that to have Yahovah's law as something super solid to fall back on or to stay within, that you can't tamper with, that is provision. No one can tamper with that law. No man, not you, no one can tamper with that law. And I think that having this law and being inside that encampment will help to keep things super simple for you. It will keep things so simple for you. It'll make things black and white, the do and the don't do. And decisions will be a whole lot more clear if you are within the boundary of his law. Things won't be gray anymore. The trick is that you must know his law. So do you see how Christians the Christian narrative on grace is so different than the Hebraic understanding of grace? Yes. So as a little story here to illustrate my point, one of Isaac's bosses is a Christian, and he has been completely perplexed with this whole mask lie thing for a long time. But he's been indoctrinated in the Christian church to believe that the governments, that we're supposed to obey the governments of man, which of course he would say, unless it breaks God's law, which I heard him say. But unfortunately, this man doesn't really know God's law, or at least he hasn't been in the habit of keeping it at all costs throughout his life. So maybe he recognizes that it's there, but it's there when you want it, and you don't need to pay attention to it, obviously, if the government tells you to do something opposite. But perhaps he is confused on what Yah's law is and is not. That could be. But nevertheless, it seems that Paul's one exhortation, I don't know how to say that. Seems like that one verse or one little area there where Paul talks about obeying civil authorities. Not only is that taken out of context and misunderstood, but that has actually become the go-to verse and text for people these days, Christians these days, who want to continue on in business and who are afraid of losing business if they don't do what the government says. This is their go-to, this is their golden verse. Unfortunately, that's one verse or one section of verses in the entire scriptures. You contrast that with the hundreds of times that Yahweh said, obey him and obey his laws. That's in there just hundreds and hundreds of times to obey him and his laws. This is where I think Yahweh's law could have saved Isaac's boss for months of being tormented over this. Yah's law would have trumped absolutely everything, thus making decisions really super clear. But unfortunately, for the past 6 months since March, he's been struggling with this. What to do as a Christian who is in business with the world? When the world says jump, do we? Well, they are, unfortunately. So when Yahweh says jump, do they? No. I suggested over and over and over again that he fall back on God's law and he would be blessed for doing so. It says in the scriptures that the Hebrew midwives were blessed for obeying Yahweh's law and not Pharaoh's law, right? But this man runs a huge company. Hundreds of families just like ours are dependent upon his customers being happy with his service. And his customers are demanding the mask wearing. So he personally already went through a loss a decade ago, and he lost everything. And he built this all back up again from scratch, and he does not want to risk losing it. Boy, that sounds like a trap, doesn't it? At that level of business, where's God at all? Where's Yahweh at all? you know, you're on your own, basically, right? That's how they feel. You know, if he was to stand up, what would happen? Well, maybe there would be some consequences that he wouldn't want to pay. And so he's weighing the consequences, right? And basically selling his soul. So after 6 months of not being able to figure it out, he finally came to a resolve. And what a resolve that was. He decided to obey the governor's mandate. So I don't know where he was getting his info, but he decided that the scripture says that we are to obey the governments of man, even if the mandate of our tyrannical governor is insane and goes directly against Jehovah's law. He said that this mask thing was just not a mountain that he wanted to die on. So, and he says this all the time to Isaac. He asks Isaac this question. He's like, are you sure this mask thing is the mountain that you want to die on? He just couldn't see that surrendering to the mask is promoting a lie and following the crowd to do evil, which, my friend, is as bad as murder, because in laws Yah does not make distinctions about which laws are worse to break. Notice. Okay, he doesn't say, okay, you can break these, but definitely don't break these. He doesn't say that. He doesn't make that distinction for us in the law. He doesn't have a list of the top 10 and then say, oh, but you know, here's 40 more. If you can keep these, it'd be great, but here's the top 10. He doesn't do that. I mean, I know we think that, you know, a lot of people, oh, only the 10 commandments. No, it's the whole law. It's the whole covenant law. Exodus 19 through 24, okay? So in the end, it'll be up to him to deliver the mercy that he alone has, to extend out to whoever he wants to, and decide, you know, how well we kept his whole law or not. But as for us to have, you know, as for teachers and people who are preaching about his law, I have no right to say this law is more important than this law, right? So lying is not, I can't say murder is worse than lying, because it's on the same tablets of stone. Okay, so I went with Isaac to a meeting to talk with his boss, and after that meeting, I had a rude awakening that showed me that companies practice turning their heads away from the wicked that other companies are doing, because in the end, it is all about the almighty dollar. If one company knew another company was trucking people out to be killed, would they do something about it, or would they just turn their heads and shrug their shoulders? Without having Yah's law to manage them, anything goes. But rest assured that they will pay the consequences later for their personal sin. Okay, so I know there are a lot of things on this planet that are so wrong, you know, and you can pay taxes to something, and that tax money could be sent to do something evil and wicked that you may not know about, or that you may find out about later. But how are you going to manage that? That's bigger than you. That is so much bigger than you. Those coins that Yahshua got from the fish for him and Kepha to pay his taxes, you know, how did Caesar use that? Probably not for good. Probably not for anything that had anything to do with the kingdom of Jehovah. But Yahshua went ahead and paid it anyway. But he didn't personally sin. So it's the person who takes that money. And if that tax money or something is being used to, you know, do something wicked, it's that person that's taking that money to doing that transfer, to doing something wicked. That's a personal sin. Okay, so you have to watch yourself from now. I mean, like, you've had to watch yourselves the whole time, but from now on, really take a note as to, are you personally sinning? So putting a mask on and continuing to propagate the lie that this is real, that is a personal sin, okay? If you're in business and you're demanding that your employees wear it, and you know it's wrong, and you're only doing it because the tyrant governor said to do it, which isn't even a law anyway, it's just a mandate, you know, and you don't know your constitution well enough to stand up for your rights, you know, that's a personal sin of yours that you're inflicting upon other people. That is going to be a bad day for you in the judgment. Yeah. And you know this mask thing is all about conditioning for the mark, right? The mark of the beast. So you better start practicing now, saying no. All right, let's continue on. So I actually saw Isaac's boss the other day, and as we were talking out by the car, and as we talked about the nonsense going on with the mask stuff and everything else, he laughed and he looked at me and he said, when you figure out where peace is, then you tell me. Oh man. Did I see that as an open door? And boy, did I tell him. I told him right then and I told him that I had found deep shalom, and that came from allowing Yehovah's commands to trump man's, period. The mask is a lie. Yehovah said not to lie. I won't. End of story. It's simple as that. That is this beautiful grace of Yah's law. Not lying is within, within that wall. That is part of the law. Isaac's boss just nodded and he said, absolutely no more, and he walked away. He did not want to hear that. He did not want to hear that. Yah's law is my enclosure. It will save me. Okay, most businesses and people around me are bowing to his law through my obedience to true grace, to the wall that his law creates. It's awesome, and it's my protection. It's my life, and so far it has not let me down. I'm here as a living testimony to say his law does not let you down, but it is truly the safe place to be. So it doesn't mean that I can do whatever I want. I am shut out of many places in town. I can't do business different places, and that's okay because I don't need them. I have Yehovah, right? So go read Psalms 119 again and to really soak in it, okay? All right, so just quickly I want to look at the Ruach HaKodesh as grace. Yes, here we go. I want to look at Psalms 30:10 a little deeper. So I mentioned that a little earlier, but let's look at what King David says in Psalms 30:10. He says, what gain is there in my bloodshed, in my descent to the pit? Will the dust praise you? No, he knows he's returning to the dust, not going to heaven when he dies. That's pretty cool. Will it proclaim your faithfulness? Hear, O Yehovah, and have mercy upon me. And that word for mercy there is chanan, which we talked about before, 2603, which is the root of chen, which is 2580, which means things like elegance or the form of a woman, a precious, charm, graceful. All right? Yehovah, be my helper. And the word there is actually izar, 5826, which is actually the root of ezer, which is 5828. It's so exciting. You turned my mourning into dancing. You peeled off my sackcloth and gave me and clothed me with joy, that my heart will sing. And then I'm like kind of paraphrasing here, but that my heart may sing your praises and not be silent. Oh, Yehovah, my Elohim, I will give thanks to you forever. Okay, so let's break this down. Hanan equals provision. Chen, form of a woman. Azar, to protect. Ezer, to help in order to rescue. Do you see it? So here, the concrete application of grace associated with protection and rescue is intimately connected with the Ezer. And I want to argue that it is connected to a person, namely the Ruach HaKodesh. This is blowing me away. Chen, the Hebrew word for grace, is translated as a precious something of beauty and value. A woman, and it clarifies that by saying a beautiful woman, and that word used is chen, 2603 that we were just talking about, the grace, retains honor, and strong men retain riches, and that word strong is 6184. So in this text we see the noun associated with the woman, these are kenegdo, is the Hebrew word for grace, which means beauty and elegance and protection. And this is actually contrasted with the man, the zakar, who is strong, having power. In this case it's violence. But again, the Hebrew word for grace is chen. The Strong's 2580, this word directly means things like adornment and charm and graceful acceptance, elegance, the form of woman, like we've talked about before. But this Hebrew word, according to ancient-hebrew.org, this Hebrew word is being paralleled with beauty. This beauty is something that is precious and graceful, which is exactly how the Hebrews would have seen the camp of protection, a graceful and precious place. So I hope you can see where I'm going here, but the first time that the word Ezer is used is in connection with the role Yehovah created a woman to play. She was to be Adam's Ezer. Ezer Kenegda. Remember in Genesis 2:18? Allowing Scripture then to define itself, we can see that the word Ezer is found only in one other context. Israel uses this word when Israel needs to be rescued by Yehovah desperately. So we can see that the Ezer is a female lifesaver, right? Just basically, he's a lifesaver, it's female. We know that the Ruach HaKodesh is feminine in form. Women reflect her. I reflect her. She is the Ezer. Women are made in her image. We are Ezers like she is. She rescues and protects with her beauty. We rescue and protect with our beauty. So how does the Ezer protect with her beauty? Well, she moves upon the heart to woo us to obey. That's how she does it. She moves us to the enclosure of his law where we can be protected. That's what we as Ezer Kenegdos are to do for our husbands, families, and communities. We're supposed to use our beauty to help move those around us into the protection of the law, okay, to make it a beautiful place. Can you imagine if inside the camp there were beautiful smells of things cooking, and you had food being made, you had a warm place to be, you had nice beds to sleep in, you had a really beautiful area there where you wanted to be, versus outside the encampment where it's not so nice, right? Well, that's what we do, is we're inside his law, and we invite other people to come inside his law and see how wonderful it is. So I am seeing that chen is directly connected to the Ezer, the Ruach HaKodesh, who rescues us by moving us toward the safety of Yehovah's law with her beauty. This is her job, and this is our job as a woman. Do you see the connection in that text? Have mercy and be my Ezer. Grace is connected to the Ezer, the Ruach HaKodesh, who will rescue me by moving me into a place of protection, his law. We don't get there without her, by the way. We have to have the Ruach HaKodesh to move us into the camp. This is true grace. This is what the Hebrew understanding of grace is. It's not sloppy grace. This is true grace. So in closing, for a Christian, which I believe a lot of scattered Israel is in Christianity, and they're either being rebellious staying there, or they are still not woken up yet. But for a Christian, everything is permissible because they believe Yah's law has been done away with, right? But for a Hebrew, obedience is supreme, because it is through obedience to the covenant law that we gain eternal life, as well as covenant blessings and covenant protection. That is true grace. So let's remember that true grace, according to the scriptures, is the enclosure of Yehovah's law. Perhaps we see Yehovah extend mercy and grace to us through giving us his law, which is the enclosure that will protect us. And perhaps the grace that Yahshua extends to us for the Father is the way that he made by which we can walk into and stay within his Father's enclosure. And of course, we need the Ruach HaKodesh to move us onto the path that Yahshua has made so we can be inside the enclosure of Yehovah's law. That is true grace, people. So if what we have talked about right here is a little too hard for you to grasp, I use too many words, it's too big of a topic to wrap your brain around, and you would rather have, your one sentence to describe grace, well, let's see how that sloppy grace works for you. Let's see how your definition of grace that covers all your sins so you can keep sinning works for you in the end. All right, so I'm laying before you what I believe the scriptures actually says true grace is. And the way you have to do is just study yourself and figure it out for yourself and see if what I speak is true. So if you'll let me, I am going to admonish you to stop propagating lies about grace. Like I said, go do your study on it so that you know for yourself what true grace is, and it's pretty amazing. So thank you so much for watching all the way through. Stay tuned for video number 9, where I'm going to answer the question, did Yahshua call his followers Christians? Oh yeah, we're going to talk about this. This is another irritation, I think, between Christianity and those who are moving back towards the Torah. I'm just going to talk about that for a little bit and show you what I know about it. So, did Yahshua call his followers Christians? We'll talk about that in video number 9. So thank you so much for being here with me. Again, just hit the like button if you did, and definitely subscribe to our channel if you'd like to get notification of when video number 9 is out. So shalom, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. Shalom. Okay, ready? Does it look good? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I'll just keep rolling. I help her. Bye, thank you. Have fun cleaning for Shabbat. Okay, we're testing audio, and we're going to test to see. So is there about this much headroom? Is it down here? Can you see my hands? You right here? 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 Yeah. Going on this, what is true biblical grace? can't believe I'm doing this. Okay.